typically, I think, the integration of, extra technology and fancy pants stuff into like straight up weight-based workouts, usually kind of gimmicky, right? Some of them do look pretty cool. Like, I remember I was thinking this for a while. I mean, the guys were probably already making it before I thought it. I'm sure because it takes a while to make this sort of thing. But it's like an electronic motor controlled cable that is just like this brick that has an internal spool of like wire, and then you can do like push downs and curls at home, and all you got to do is like mount it to your wall, right? That sort of thing's kind of cool, because then you can change it up with like different resistances and whatever else. But anything beyond kind of just simple things like that, like when it's a machine that's like a gamified row and you're playing Flappy Bird with like how high you are in the rep, and it has this, I think that's a little much. Right, let's save that for cardio. YouTube and AirPlay on a cardio bike, so I can watch videos and scroll my phone at the same time. Now that's a kicker. Right now we're cooking with gas. But for the actual working out, what I'm really waiting for, and I don't need any credit for this if you want to, take this and run with it. But some kind of device, some kind of, I don't care if it's like a couple different electric sensors on my shoulders or my neck, or like even put two on my freaking forehead underneath my hat, so that it can like electronically quantify just how hard you're actually training, right? And the benefit, for one, people who actually want to make sure they're bringing it can bring it, but then you could gamify it, right? Because I think there's a lot of sets out there that get done, in the presence of others, where they're taken a little bit too easy, right? They give up a little early, that maybe they don't really bring it to just absolute maximum failure. But right, if there was some way for us to actually quantify how hard you're really training, well, that's honestly, I think that'd be a good motivation. Like all those apps where it shows different muscle groups when you plug in your training and things like that. It'd be like that, but to a whole nother freaking level. Because then at least people could prove they were bringing it. We're right now is kind of a highly popular few years of the idea of really optimizing exercise selections. Screw the old ways. We're doing all sorts of just slightly, it's the same stuff but just slightly different, right? Doing one arm pec deck instead of both, doing single arm pull downs where the weight is loaded at your elbow instead of your hands. I mean, it's the same stuff, right? There's not I haven't seen anybody do shrugs where they just flip themselves upside down and they're shrugging their body upward on a pull-up bar. I haven't seen that yet, but I think it's all good and well. I want to broaden my training vocabulary as much as the next guy, but you can give two guys completely different workouts, completely different movements. Give one dude just a freaking bunch of rusty dumbbells on a squat rack in a garage. He's going to get better gains than the guy who's got access to like a freaking full-on LA Fitness or like a Gold's Gym, if he's bringing it twice as hard as the other guy. It's I think it's a little bit overshadowed, just like the simple run your head through a brick wall kind of approach of just how hard you can go, and then everything else just kind of clears itself up in the background, so take that as you will, right? If if you're, well, I guess if you're watching this, Sam lift, you'd probably end up agreeing with me, but I'm sure you see the TikToks, right? We're all chronically online enough to see all these getting posted. So nothing fancy for me today with this chest workout. All I want to do is make sure I get maximally pumped, but that's pretty much my goal every lift. So whether I'm going to start with heavy pressing or maybe go a little lighter today, that's to be seen. Right? First, I got to actually get onto the cables and warm up my rotator cuffs and my triceps and even my back too, just because that's a solid stabilizer of any kind of press. And then I'll decide, all right, do I think incline barbell would be sweet right now, or should I stick to like a converging cable press or something like that? And then either case, whether I end up deciding to go extra heavy or be a little bit more, moderate with my weight and make sure every rep is really squeezing and I'm just totally putting myself into the muscle and making sure every fiber of my pecs being is being activated. I'll just have to see, right? But in either case, whether it's heavy or light, I still want to go kind of nuts, right? That's where if you were to, plug on the effort link, completely unaffiliated with Neuralink, then you'd be able to tell, right? He's going just as hard on, a 3-plate incline bench set as he would be on, cable press or flies or, whatever. So that's what I'm getting at, right? I want my internal bar of effort to be maxed out regardless of what the style, weight, or, just way around that the set ends up being, But 7:30 on is it Tuesday today? 7:30 on a Monday should not be that packed. Actually, I'm going to lock it in now. It's probably going to be, well, I don't know. We'll find out. But I doubt it's going to be like crazy packed. Oh. I just remembered Monday's National Chess Day. All right. Well, you know what? How about we'll just see. I'm not going to worry about it. All right. Let's start with cable press instead of incline dumbbell. Or incline barbell, rather. And just because it's a press doesn't mean it's not, heavy. But a little bit more controlled squeezing than incline barbell would let me feel. Okay. Oh, a few more. Oh, goodness. All right. I adjusted the cable so they're a little bit wider. But other than that, same thing. Okay. Two more. That was really good. I can tell I'm feeling very efficient with this movement. And I will explain. Yeah. Okay. I gotta go a little lighter for this one. But one more. Okay. Oh. Okay. Let's switch movements. That was more of an incline press. Now let's do a slightly more flat/decline fly. So I'm talking moderate weight, but bent over. And really, I just want these to burn. And I'm not going to do a 5-second hold. I'm not going to do a 3 seconds hold to stretch. Just normal pace reps as hard as I can go. Oh, goodness. One more. Let's raise this thing up just a few notches. There we go. A little more emphasis on the stretch, like that. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Okay. One more like that, a little heavier. Okay. Oh, holy crap. Okay, one more of those. That feels really good. Okay. Okay. Ooh, all right. Yeah, I think that's enough for today. Let's go pose down. All right. So what does that add up to? 4 sets of cable press, 3 flies, and then I did do a little extra after I said I was done. And sometimes I'll add this just as a little extra umph, pump-wise after chest. Grab 1 cable, shoulder height, moderate weight, 5 reps, quick, flip around, 5 reps, flip around again. Just do that a couple times. Like that's kind of similar to some of the arm finishers I'll throw in, where it'll just be like 10 sets of quick cable curls, 10 sets of quick push downs, just a rapid stretch, contraction, just to really, kind of make sure I get as much blood into the intended body part as possible. And frankly, I feel like that with chest today. A chest pump is interesting because it congregates, right? It spreads beyond just your chest. My arms are a little bit extra pumped just from holding everything together. My shoulders from, being kind of stabilizers. Even my back a little bit just from being in such close proximity to my chest. And then obviously, not to mention my chest itself. So let's see how it's looking and then get ready to go home and get some food in my system. So morning weight tomorrow should be just about 266, maybe 267. Sometimes bulked weight can be a little bit inflated. If you eat a huge late meal, then Obviously, you're going to kind of carry some of that weight over into the morning. It's not just going to all completely pass through you. So sometimes you can cheat the system. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys step on the scale and say, holy crap, I'm 200 pounds, when, they just had Christmas dinner. It's a little bit of a different situation. But yeah, morning weight after, after taking a piss and everything, that's a real indicator of if you're actually getting bigger or getting leaner, right? Depending on what your, particular goal is. But let's just see how chest is looking. Oh, feeling decently brolic. Oh yeah. So what I'm really aiming for is this upper chest area. Like there's these little fibers that kind of extend, like it's almost a split, as though there's two parts of my chest. There's this lower portion and it splits into this upper portion. And that's what I was really focusing on when I was doing those incline cable presses. Hands kind of turned outward, and I feel like I'm pressing with sort of this part of my palm. Because if I start to kind of reach over, that can, get me a little bit more hunched. But if I keep my hands in more of an underside position like so, then it lets me get a lot more, kind of upper chest. Because I feel like I'm sort of pulling in and up instead of just in. And I'm already prone to, hunching and front delta activation. So that's something I've been putting a lot of effort into. But good lift. Now all I gotta do is go home, get some grub, get a good night's rest, and get ready to freaking diet down. Not super soon, but in a matter of weeks. No more than 10, that's for sure. And I'm getting excited. Like, honestly, I feel like I've almost had my fill of being bulked, which is, it's kind of tricky to say, and like it took a while. Like I got to get up to like damn near 270 to say I've had my fill. But shit, man, what are you gonna do, right? It takes a while. But yeah, in the scheme of things, I definitely want to reach a point where I can say that's enough, right? I'm not in an endless pursuit of size, though it may seem like it, because that's all I'm talking about, right? I don't. There was a period where I was pretty convinced that eventually we would see a 300-pound off-season Sam. I think 300 would be a little crazy, would be a little more than necessary. I think 270, maybe 275, that'll be the heaviest I need to go. And then I can focus more on just making sure the muscle I, keep building and adding onto can just keep kind of developing, right? If over the next few years I gained no size, but, kept training hard, kept staying dieted, kept, getting after it, my build would change purely from just getting a different kind of, maybe not texture, but almost like shape and grain to some of my muscle. That's what we're talking about with muscle maturity, right? I mean, guys can just keep lifting for, however long, and they may not be continually gaining size, but just the process of real, like legit training, you're actually bringing it. You're going to go from like a freaking sapling up to an old ass, what's a real grainy, barky tree? What am I talking, an oak? Or is an oak a little smoother? But either way, that's what I'm kind of getting at. So it's not only a pursuit of quantity, right? Quality is involved as well. And I'm really getting excited to diet down, come later into this year, early next year too. And then I'm double excited because the plan's to do the Arnold. But regardless of how that goes, because that's full of like real experienced older competitors, for me at least, I do know that I'm going to look way more nuts. For one, I'll be leaner, but also I won't have to suck down and like sweat out pounds upon pounds of water, which would have made me kind of like extra full, right? If you go back to, this would have been the week prior to the Vegas Classic, or the Vegas show that I did before the Arnold. That week in Dragon's Lair, like there's a few lifts. I think it was mainly chest and arms. That was the nuttiest that I've ever looked. Historically, that's my PR pump check in the mirror in terms of just overall freak factor plus aesthetics from being actually leaner, a little more kind of V-taperish, and just grains out the wazoo. So that's the look that I want to bring, or not even bring, like that's just the look I want to get back again because it's so freaking cool, So that's kind of that's my motivating factor right now for coming in the next diet. Just because I know if I would skip days and slack and like not count my calories and anything, I would never get that look again, So there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but if you want it to work, shit, man, you gotta stay in that deficit. But no more talking. Let's get in the car. I'm beginning to suspect it might be in my best interest to do a little bit of a deload week. And by week, I don't mean a whole week. I just mean a couple days of lifts that are a little more akin to the style that I was doing while I was dieting, right? Because I'm still getting a pump, I'm still going hard, I'm still sweating, but I'm just not overdoing it with the weight. I don't think I've been, well, actually the fact that I'm saying this would mean I'd be overdoing it a little in the sense that I feel like I'm getting a little extra fatigued, but I kind of feel like that's part of the deal, right? The point of the working out is not, to induce no damage to, have to recover from. That's like the whole point, So it's just always a back and forth, right? It's an ebb and flow. Take a few, for every heavy, crazy day, there will also be a lighter, squeezing day. Interesting combination on whatever car that was. The rims did not match. Right, let's just say that car should not have had 22-inch rims. But getting back to what I was kind of talking about there, is it's kind of like you don't. What am I trying to get at here? Right, like I think there's a value in. Not even I think it. I know that there's a difference between somebody who brought it too hard versus who kind of stayed comfortable the entire time. Right, I do not think I would be current Sam as we are looking at now if every lift was like very lightweight, very just squeezing reps, get your head into the, like it's just not how I was built, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't all sets like that either. So really I'm just trying to make a justification on why I think a few light days would be better. But yeah, I think that might be the plan, because I can tell I've got more minor little twinges than normal, and nothing serious, like nothing that I think is gonna like really tweak into anything. But I'm sometimes if I overdo it, my brachioradialis, whatever, this muscle right here that ties into my forearm gets a little tender, like if I curl too heavy or if I do some kind of something or just whatever, so I don't want to mess that up any further. So I think tomorrow with back, and then subsequently with arms, and then for quads and hamstrings for legs afterward, I'm going to make at least those 3 rep focused rather than weight focused, right? So instead of another almost 550 pound squat, let's just do some squeezing leg extensions, some lighter leg press. I really liked, so I'm going to go back to the warehouse for legs next time, because that hip press that I've got in the corner, putting like half of the weight that I normally put on it, and instead of doing like normal speed reps, pre-exhausting with leg extensions and then doing faster reps, like I was just talking about, as like a finisher of, rapid contraction to stretch, that's going to be good, so that's where I think my eyes have been opened up a little bit. But still going to get pumped, still going to go nuts, still going to keep this bulk going strong. So yeah, what is it, almost middle of freaking the 14th. Yeah, this bulk, we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely not going to go into October. That's for sure. But September, that'll probably be just about the cue. You know what I'm saying? And that will have been, let's see, January, February, March, April, May, June, April, May, June, July. Yeah, nearly 5 months into this friggin' bulk. That's about right. You know, any longer, at least for me, typically ends up just extending its stay too long. You know what I'm saying? I think that, yeah, shit. I'm kind of reaching the point of 50-50. 50% off season, 50% dieted. Coming up in terms of my, kind of really beefing up sort of progress. It's been like 8 months bulking, 4 months dieting, sort of throughout the year. Like really kind of just rapid, faster paced dieting phases. 2 months. I think sometimes, just about 2 months, maybe almost 2.5. Just enough to peel some body fat off, get my appetite back up again, and then start the off season. But now that I think I'm getting a little bit closer to final form than I might have previously, and I'm not saying I'm done, right? But I mean, 265 ain't nothing. Then I'm a little more concerned with just making sure I can kind of dial it in. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, but either way, this will be a good off season. Just a few more weeks, and then get ready to up the cardio and gradually drop calories. So, how many of you guys know someone who said this summer was going to be different? You're not going to recognize me by August. I'm going to be a totally different dude. I'm going to make this summer a freaking movie with how locked in I'm going to be. I've heard that, or I've read that in posts 2 or maybe 3 million times. And this isn't as a super kind of cool thing to have to say, right? But I mean, I've seen guys, I've seen different posts and videos and everything else talking about guys working out. I even just heard, one of my buddies in the gym today say that the guy he was working out with before quit. He's like, I don't think quit. You never quit the gym. I think you just take a break for an extended period. But he said, yeah, he stopped working out. Right? And I've seen guys where they're making videos, I mean, all sorts of different goals and everything else. I'm going to be the youngest so-and-so, and I see it a million times. And it always ends up phasing out, right? Not always. There are the outliers, right? The outliers to be kind of looked up to, the ones who actually do what they say they're going to do. But my thought process has kind of always been skip the middleman, Don't exactly say what you're going to do, because then, I mean, I guess it depends on the dude, right? But then you got this added and strange external pressure of, now you're trying to convince everybody else you're going to do it, and you got to hold yourself to it, which some people may like. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that, so with everything that I've wanted to do, lifting wise, whatever wise, for me at least, my approach has always just been, all right, I think this will be cool. Let's jump straight to, doing what's going to get me closer to whatever this thing is. And then once I've done it, then you can kind of show it off, because then there's nothing to show off if you say you're going to do it, right? You're, maybe you loved watching Naruto, I'm going to be the next Hokage, right? Nobody believed that guy. Not for a fucking second, right? And once he started doing some shit, everybody believed him, right? So you want to be the guy, you want to skip that phase. You want to skip the disbelief phase, get straight to grind on whatever your thing may be. And then, shit, man, you won't even have to convince anybody that you're going to get after it, because you already do it. You're living it. It's not up for debate whether or not you're actually going to make it happen, because that's the only thing people are going to see from you. Just kind of honing into a working out specific context. You don't hear the serious lifters at your gym talk about how they're going to stick to a diet and talk about how they're going to gain X pounds in an off season, or work on their bench, or bring this up, or work on their cardio. You don't really hear them trying to convince someone else that they're going to do it or that they're capable of doing it, because for them, they don't see it as an argument. If you're holding up a freaking glass of milk and you're about to drop it, you don't have to tell anybody, I'm about to make a mess. I'm about to make a huge mess. It's obvious that's going to happen. So at least how I look at it is, I like the idea that, if you're seriously into something, be it working out, let's say you're like a total guitar nut, you want to get, like X, I don't know any, guitar legends off the top of my head, but, whatever that thing is that you want to really put a lot of time and energy into, I like the idea that if you stopped doing it, or that if someone heard that you gave it up, that they would be surprised, because you're just embodying it so, I don't even want to say strongly, just so completely, that it almost takes over at least just a small portion of your identity. Like, you're not gonna shit, like, I did all the diving. I was a D1 diver for a year, right? But you're not gonna hear Sam Sulik and think diving. You're not gonna think Sam Sulik and think, Rubik's cubes, like I would solve for a little bit, or fishing, right? It's the working out, So that's if you take anything from watching all these videos and everything else, and the repetitiveness of it, and just whatever, I really think kind of taking some value in, not getting so attached to like instant gratification on whatever you're kind of working towards, because it's going to take a while, right? There is no overnight sensation. Even even in the context where you might say that, the dude was still working on whatever that thing was for, at least years prior. Those are the things that don't get shown off, right? So that's coming from my perspective. It's a little more important, I feel, to actually just make it happen. Don't talk about it, don't bring it up, don't try to explain, just do it, right? Let that speak for itself, because actions are going to speak a lot louder than words. And I feel like just the idea of, having to, like, convince, let's just say, the universe per se, that you're going to get after it, I think there's an angle where you could look at it, or you could look at that as though it's stemming from potentially an internal self-doubt of, like, having to defend yourself, right? It's you're not guilty if you call your lawyer, but in the court of public opinion, that's just kind of basic psychology, right? So if you're trying to convince everybody you're going to get after it, shit, man, I might question just how you're going to act if it's just you alone. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, there's the outliers, right? Who do what who say what they'll do. So those are the, let's just say those are the people to look up to, right? Those are the things where, if I see somebody post something, they say, in 2 years, I'm going to do blank, 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 and then I see it again on my feed, and the guy actually did it. That is nuts, right? Because that is just not seen a lot. It's usually talk, disappear off the face of the freaking earth. But not to get too deep. Good chest day. I'm ready to get some freaking chicken and rice into my system with some buffalo sauce, and then freaking pass out. So I'll make sure this is a really big post-workout meal. So that's all I got. I'll see you for whatever I'm gonna do for back tomorrow.